Do you believe in strange, chilling, real-life experiences? Today's stories will take you into moments that those involved can never forget, where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare yourself to step into a world of mysteries and haunting. These are 4 terrifying true stories that you shouldn't watch alone. Story 1. The Strange Night at the Cabin by the River. I'm going to tell you about a trip that should have been a normal weekend getaway, but it turned into an experience I'll never forget. This story takes place in the spring, when my best friend Ben and I decided to go see a horror movie we loved. We lived in a fairly remote area of Minnesota where there wasn't much to do. So when we heard the film was being shown in a city a few hours away by car, we decided to go watch it and spend the night. I had booked a small cabin by the Mississippi River through an online booking site about 2 months in advance. The cabin had 2 sheds, one the owner said was off limits, used for storage, and the other had a game area with a pool table, kayaks, and a few outdoor games. It sounded like a fun place to stay. But from the very beginning, things felt a bit off. A week before the trip, I received a booking confirmation email, but strangely, the owner didn't send any information about how to get the keys or open the cabin. I messaged him but received no response. It made me a bit nervous, but I assumed the owner was just busy. On the day we arrived in the city to see the movie, we went bar hopping and I had a bit too much to drink. The next morning I woke up in the hotel with a massive headache, and the 7 a.m. checkout time made me extremely uncomfortable. We took our time eating breakfast and walking around before heading out. But when we got near the small town near the cabin, I messaged the owner again and still no response. I called the number listed on the booking site, but the message said it wasn't in service. When I contacted support, they said the owner had deleted the number and would call me back. Sure enough, the owner called me back shortly after, apologizing for not letting me know the cabin had been rented out during that time. He promised everything would be ready in about an hour. I figured since we had already driven all the way there, we might as well wait. When we finally arrived at the cabin, it was cozy with a bedroom, a small loft, a large window overlooking the river and the vast surrounding forest. Ben chose to sleep in the bedroom while I went up to the loft to prepare for the first night. That evening, we grilled fish we caught in the river outside, built a small campfire, and drank a few beers. Once it got dark, we went inside and turned on the TV with only the dim light from the screen and the kitchen fan illuminating the room. While I was upstairs getting my phone charger, I heard strange noises, the sound of a bottle being crushed, footsteps outside the back window of the cabin. I looked down and in an instant a shadowy figure appeared and quickly vanished from my sight. My heart raced. I immediately told Ben to lock all the windows and close the blinds, but he thought I was being paranoid, dismissing it as just an animal. I couldn't shake off the unease. I tried turning on the outdoor lights but found the bulb had been removed. We grabbed flashlights and searched around the house, but found nothing unusual. We decided to end the day and go to bed. However, as I tried to drift off to sleep, I heard footsteps outside the cabin. Soft, deliberate steps, walking around the cabin, then fading away into silence. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find the owner, a middle-aged man with a cold stare that could send shivers down anyone's spine. He apologized for the mix-up and gave us a restaurant voucher as a token of appreciation for our understanding. Yeah, he said he would stay for a while to take care of some maintenance work and didn't hesitate to linger around the cabin. I watched from the window as he placed a bird feeder and checked the lock on the off-limits storage shed. But instead of leaving, he stood there silently staring at the cabin as if he were watching our every move. Later that day, when we returned to the cabin after going to buy some supplies, I found my purse had been opened and moved to the side. I wanted to believe it was just my own carelessness, but the unsettling feeling didn't fade. That night, a sudden snowstorm hit, forcing us to stay inside the cabin, playing games and watching movies. But when we were about to leave the next morning, Ben noticed barefoot footprints in the snow circling the cabin and leading up to both doors. I knew those footprints weren't ours. The owner or someone else had snuck into the cabin despite the snowstorm and may have violated our personal space. From the moment we stepped into the cabin to when we left, the air felt suffocating and cold, never leaving us. I knew for sure I would never return to that place. If you've ever rented a place online, be more cautious. Sometimes a lack of transparency isn't a small matter. It can be a sign of lurking dangers you'd never want to face. And remember, sometimes the shadows don't come from the outside, but from the very things we think are the safest. Story 2. The horrifying night at the abandoned mansion. This story happened when I was 17 in a small town about 50 miles north of Minneapolis. There was a 3-story mansion abandoned for over 20 years deep in the woods. There were many rumors surrounding this house, stories of a family being hunted by a madman and of a man who had lived there who had become deformed. In reality, the house had simply been foreclosed because the owner couldn't pay the debt and it had been overrun with severe mold. But that night, when my friend David and I decided to explore the house for our YouTube channel, we never expected that something horrifying was waiting for us. We parked a quarter of a mile from the mansion, weaving through thick bushes to avoid being spotted. Our plan was to enter through the back door, but it was locked tight, so we made our way to the front. The front yard had a wrought iron porch with torn mesh and old furniture like lawn chairs and decaying wooden crates scattered around. The front door was chained with a steel lock, and most of the windows were either boarded up or shattered. We had to climb through a ground floor window to get inside. The moment I stepped in, I felt an indescribable sensation, a deep freezing cold, the smell of mold, and an oppressive air, as if the entire house was breathing. We switched on our flashlights and walked through the empty rooms, the walls covered with the yellow stains and peeling paint. The sound of footsteps echoed, reminding us of the presence of someone who wasn't invited. Suddenly, from the living room, we heard the unmistakable sound of a shotgun being pumped, the loud, rapid sound of shells being loaded enough to stop anyone's heart. David and I didn't waste a second. We turned and ran bolting out of the crumbling house, through the bushes and back to the car. Just as we got into the car, a gunshot rang out, echoing all around us. We had no idea who was in the house, or what the purpose of the shot was. Maybe it was a vandal practicing shooting, or perhaps a predator waiting to harm strangers. But one thing we knew for sure, we couldn't stay there any longer. The next day, we didn't go back to the mansion. I heard the house had been sold, but it still stands there isolated and silent, like a warning to curious souls. And to this day, I can still clearly hear the sound of that gunshot echoing in the dark, one sound I never want to hear again. Story 3: The Nightmare on the Haunted Island. This story took place one summer when I, along with three close friends, Kevin, Ryan, and Tommy, went for a getaway at a cabin owned by Tommy's family, located on a secluded island in Lake Vermilion, northern Minnesota. To get there, we had to park our car on a gravel road and then paddle across the vast lake. The cabin was small and simple, with only 2 bedrooms, a kitchen and a living room, all connected. There were no curtains, so wherever we slept, we could still see shadows from outside. On the 3rd night of the trip, while sitting around the campfire, we suddenly heard strange noises, splashes, the sound of something swimming. Looking out onto the lake, we saw a bizarre shape, a head bobbing on the water's surface, about the length of a football field from the dock. The head didn't move, just staring at us. The skin was ghostly pale, and the long black hair was soaked. It didn't resemble any bird I'd ever seen, despite the lake having many night hunting birds. We tried to convince ourselves it was just a loon, but the stillness and the fact that it was getting closer shattered any doubt. Later, when I had to step outside for a moment, I looked back to see the head much closer now, only about 30 feet from the shore, still staring directly at me. We quickly shut the cabin doors, bolted the windows, but the sound of footsteps outside and muffled murmurs we couldn't trace still echoed through the night. The climax came when Ryan woke up and saw a huge ghostly white figure with a single eye staring through his bedroom window. We immediately fled from the island, too scared to look back. Ryan was deeply haunted by the experience, suffering from insomnia for weeks and relying on sedatives to sleep. The cabin became a place of unexplained fear, a giant question mark in our youthful memories. Story 4: The Strange Night at the Abandoned Cabin. This story happened on a cold winter night when I decided to spend a weekend with a few friends at an abandoned cabin in the outskirts of Minnesota. It was a remote place far from the outside world, surrounded by dense forests and a blanket of snow. We arrived just as dusk was settling in, and thick mist blanketed the area, making the atmosphere even more ominous. The old cabin, with broken windows and a sagging roof, creaked with every gust of wind. Despite its dilapidated state, we decided to stay the night. As soon as we stepped inside, a chilling sensation ran down my spine, leaving everyone silent and uneasy. There was no electricity, and we only had a few flashlights and a small fire on the stove to light the way. That night, when everyone was sound asleep, I was awakened by strange sounds coming from outside the cabin. Hurried footsteps, whispers in an unintelligible language, and occasionally a howling wind that sounded like someone crying in the darkness. I looked out the window and saw a shadowy figure lurking between the trees. Every time I tried to get a clearer look, it would disappear or move in a strange manner, almost as if it were playing a game of hide and seek with me. My heart raced as I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't shake the panic. I woke up my friends, but they were all fast asleep, oblivious to the sounds. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and went out, and the fire on the stove started to die down. In the darkness, I could feel a cold presence near me, as if invisible eyes were watching my every move. The feeling was so intense that I had no choice but to leave the cabin in the middle of the night, running to the car parked half a mile away without daring to look back. The next morning, when everyone woke up, we found strange footprints around the cabin. Footprints that didn't belong to any of us. On the wall, there were deep scratches, as if someone had been trying to knock on the door or leave some sort of message. After that night, none of us wanted to return to that cabin. That strange night became a haunting memory, reminding us that some things in this world are beyond human explanation. These 4 stories are true experiences, reminders that the world around us holds many mysteries yet to be explained. If you've encountered strange events like these, share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next chilling tales. Thank you for joining me on this journey to uncover the mysteries in the dark. See you in the next video, where fear and curiosity always walk hand in hand. Bom.